Super. All right. So here we are. I'm going to call the meeting of the Open Space Committee to order. This is the September 30th meeting, and it is being recorded. So we do have a quorum here. That's Charlie McDonald, April West, Janet Brown, Diana Fetterman, Joy Piper, and I see one guest from the community right now. That's Marla Hank. The first thing we're going to do is ask for any public comments, and the only public member at this moment is Marla Hank. Do you have any particular comments to make at this point, Marla?
I do not.
Okay, thanks, Marla. And then we'll go to the minutes of September 2nd. They were sent out. I'm not going to call them on the screen. I'm just going to ask if anybody has any questions or comments, or does anybody want to make a motion to accept them as written?
This is Janet. The only thing I would like to say, and I don't think it's important, under Celebrate Southampton, about the middle of the page, this is Janet said she observed many visitors to the CONCOM and OCS table, but there were also people to the community preservation table that we had. Is that important to add to that?
I only think it relates to the fact that we are the Open Space Committee, and we had that joint table with Friends of Southampton Open Space and CONCOM.
Virginia did a nice presentation at the community preservation table and for handouts and all that. And we did have some people stop by, but if you don't, I don't think it's worth.
I don't know if it's relevant to this. That's my thought. But I'm glad, I know you did a great job there, you and Virginia.
Virginia did a great job.
So otherwise, do you think it's okay, Janet, if we don't alter the minutes to include that?
Yes, I think it's okay.
All right. Anybody else want to comment or move to accept as written?
I have to abstain, right, because I wasn't at the meeting, so.
Okay, fine. Anyone else who was at the, pardon me?
You need a second?
I didn't hear a first.
Oh, well, I make a motion that we approve the minutes as amended if we're adding extra language.
I guess we're not adding extra.
We're not adding it, April.
Okay, as written.
Second, is anyone seconding it? I'll second it. So the minutes have been, there's been a motion to accept as written and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yes, aye.
Palmer, aye.
Fetterman, aye.
McDonald abstain.
Brown, aye.
I have to do that, right? I understand. Yeah.
Well, okay. Joy, do you want to vote?
We lost her.
I think, yeah, she's not connected right now or something. So we'll just.
I apologize. I heard you. Sorry.
Oh.
Just took me a minute to find the button. Yes, I vote. I read the minutes. Yes, they're good.
Okay,
Aye.
great. So they're,
Sorry.
the minutes are accepted unanimously with one abstention. Thank you. All right.
I have
We
a
have an-
quick question. Now, does Janet post these or do I still have access to my town government?
I don't think anything's changed, so please post them. If you
Okay.
have a problem, let me know. Janet,
I don't have the ability to post them. I could probably get them.
would you email Lucy, Janet,
Uh-huh.
and say that after tonight, so Diana, please post them ASAP if you could. And
Okay.
after tonight, you are now the clerk, and that you need access to, specifically to the Open Space Committee on my town government, and she'll, I think, do that.
I would like to be able to do it. Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, I see a new member of the public. Chris, we already asked for public comments. I don't know if you have any at this time. I'm seeing a negative shake. Okay, now moving on. We are going to be really time efficient because two members of our committee have to leave at 6:45, and Mark Walmsley is going to join us at approximately 6:30. So I want to go quickly to committee reports as your committee or board has any comments, any activities related to open space. I'm going to start with planning board. There isn't really anything specific to open space, but I will say that on the agenda of the meeting coming up, which is on October 5th, that's 7 o'clock. Some people are aware of a particular property on High Street. What is the number? 23 High Street, Janet?
32.
Oh, 32 High Street, which is, and that's going to be on the agenda. And for the planning board's purpose, it's specifically related to the stormwater bylaw. And I know that others might be present. So there have been some concerns about that particular property. So that's all I have to say. There isn't any further discussion on that because it's not yet been discussed at the planning board. Let's see here, representative from Conservation Commission, you happen to have your chair here tonight. Who would like to give a report on Conservation Commission update, please?
I can, or Marla can if she would prefer.
I would not, thank you.
Okay. So they discussed the APR on the Searle farm. That's proceeding, all the legal work. They're splitting the 99 acres into 2 parcels, but it will remain APR. They discussed how to spin the Eversource $70,000 penalty, whether to help the Manhan River in any way, or wetlands, or culvert removal. They discussed, yes, removing culverts on the Fletcher farm. And this is just kind of a little, I thought, interesting point that up on Pomeroy Mountain, the work is due to begin with the Student Conservation Association on clearing or creating a trail there. And because Durrell's Path was kind of a misnomer, and Randall Kemp was up there and said, this is going to be a Great Mountain Trail. And it used to be called Great Mountain in opposition to Little Mountain. So that will be the name of it, Great Mountain Trail. They're going to be using oxen to do that work as well.
I didn't hear what they're going to be using. What?
Oxen. O-X-E-N.
Oh, oxen, because of, oh, I know, because what's his name? Tom
Right,
Jenkins.
yeah,
Oh,
that's
isn't
not
that
the Student Conservation Association, but the oxen will be involved, yeah. I hope I got all that right, Marla.
Just a little note, the culverts we would talk about removing are not on the Fletcher's farm, it's on the Zipta farm property. The Fletchers leased that property,
Right,
but the property itself is owned by the town of Southampton.
okay. I stand corrected.
Why was there a $70,000 penalty? And I assume the way you presented it, it meant that that money went to the Conservation Commission. Is that right?
Yes, it had to do with solar panels improperly installed, and the runoff was, that all happened like a year ago or so, right, Marla?
It's multiple years ago on a project for solar panels, and the DEP took over the enforcement order. It's not where the panels are, it's other parts of the property that were involved with the running the line across. And so the state is, the Attorney General's office is prepared to allow us, the Conservation Commission, use the $70,000 fine, as it were, to do work as it relates to protecting the Manhan, because the water issues had been flowing from Moose Brook into the Manhan. So we need to come up with a project or projects that help take care of the Manhan, such as removing invasives that are taking over and or dealing with culverts, but it's related to the wetlands as they flow into the Manhan in Southampton.
Oh, that's exciting. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to keep going. So April, do you have any reports specific to assessors?
I don't think so. We've been getting an interim assessor up to speed who's going to be working about 10 hours a week. And we're collecting all the Chapter 61 applications, so those will be reviewed in our next public hearing or meeting. And I think that's about it. So.
Okay. Thanks, April. Joy, is there anything select board you wish to report related to open spaces?
Not at this moment, no.
Okay, thank you very much. Janet, anything related to CPC related to open space?
We haven't met, but we will be meeting on October the 6th. And maybe I can report something then.
Is that possibly October the 5th? It's next Wednesday, correct?
Wednesday's the 6th.
Is it? You're right. Good. Well, that was a test. You passed it. Thank you.
I'm looking at my calendar right now.
All right. I can always be corrected, so that's great. Let's see here. Who else do we have to hear from? Oh, well, we don't have anybody from Parks. And between those of us that are involved, and maybe Diana, you can jump in, and Chris, because you know about the new grant that was won by the Parks. What I don't have is an updated report on whether or not they discussed it. And I realize they will be managing the grant. Does either of you want to say anything about that? Chris?
Yeah, the grant award just came out last week. So this is from the PARC program, and it's for $100,000 for the Park Commission, basically to put in a walkable path from Route 10 in along the tree line, alongside the tennis court area, pickleball court area, over toward the library parking lot. And with a little bit of luck, there's money enough to do a small splash pad, spray pool, splash pad, whatever you call it, for the kids. And that's going to require a match, though, for the town. And so the Parks Commission needs to be getting themselves before the CPC meeting on Wednesday to have a match, because we will be aiming toward a special town meeting in the fall, probably late November, early December, because this particular grant requires a town meeting vote.
Okay. So I'm looking at the agenda right now for CPC. And yes, it's under new business. So I hope somebody from Parks can go to CPC. It's on the CPC agenda for next Wednesday.
How much do they need to ask for, Chris?
I think it's about 86,000, something like that.
Okay, so we don't know who's going to represent them. And it's really, somebody from Parks has to be the one to go, right? They have to be the ones.
Well, it should be, or if they don't go, they have to delegate it to Ed.
Okay, all right. Well, that's interesting. Okay, I don't think there's any other committee reports that we need right now. I am going to update you a little bit on lands. First of all, I met with the owner of property, oh dear, I'm never going to do that. I'm sorry, I don't have the map in front of me. I'm going to just tell you who it is. Her name is Sherry York Whiteley, and she lives, her house is on Maple Street, but she has the property up behind there. And she met with me and Mark Walmsley last week, and she's expressing a strong desire in conserving her property in some regard. It doesn't mean selling it. It certainly doesn't mean donating it. So she's actually requested the names of people who already have CRs on their property in our town. And I just texted her tonight, and she's making contact with Barry Searle and with Christina Madsen. And she also wants to speak with the Riggs. So she's just in her information gathering phase. She's also really eager to do whatever she can to help facilitate contacts with other landowners. And when we hear from Mark in a few minutes, he will hopefully be able to kind of not be specific, but talk in generalities about ways that Kestrel Land Trust can be working with us going forward. So that's one thing to tell you. The next thing to tell you is regarding the property on map 12, which this is public record. The owner of that property is Larry Trinseri. It's map 12, lot 10. Am I reading that right? Lot 10. The owner of that property is Mr. Larry Trinseri, and with the assistance of his son, I believe, his property in town, the house, was sold and was recorded as a sale about a week or so ago. Paula Mack was really helpful making contact with the selling agent, and it was not clear if all of his properties in town were part of the sale, but in terms of what was recorded with the deed, at the Registry of Deeds, the property on Pomeroy Mountain, which is now called Great Mountain Trail, is not part of the sale. I'm going to tell you that I'm hesitant to recontact the son right away. He was clear with us many months ago that they had a lot of things to deal with their family, and I'm going to just let a little time pass. I did send him 2 emails that he did not respond to, and the last one was a few months ago. So I'm going to back off, and I'm just going to get a little time to, and then I will, if I haven't heard from him in a while, maybe in another couple months, I'll email him again and say I'm aware that the other property sold, because I know, unless it's changed, Marla, that the Conservation Commission would be interested in knowing if it's possible that the Trinseri property up on Great Mountain Trail would be available for purchase by the town. So that's the only update I have on that.
And to be clear, it's still called Pomeroy Mountain. We're just calling the trail we're building on what is now the existing town property as the Great Mountain Trail. If we were to be so fortunate as to acquire additional properties and extend the trail, then that too would be the trail. But I don't know why they stopped calling it Great Mountain and started calling it Pomeroy Mountain, but that is what they call it now. But we can name the trail whatever we want.
Okay.
I would be thrilled to be able to expand our property by that 40 acres, but I guess it is not meant to be right now.
Well, you know me, I'm the eternal optimist, so we're hoping.
I will give you a real opinion. If you really want it, make an offer.
Well, we did that last year. Are you saying renew the offer? We even went as far as to say we would pay for is the word official appraisal of it.
I think, didn't we just tell them what we thought, what we were told it was worth? We didn't say.
Well, I made the offer for that amount, which is what I thought it was worth. I mean, it's a case of renewing the offer, but at this point we need an appraisal. Don't you think, April?
No, well, I mean, it depends on how badly we want it. And, again, it depends on how badly you want it. So,
well, we want it badly.
When you say, April, when you say make an offer, do you mean a written offer?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So we didn't do that.
The only way to be taken seriously is to put an offer in writing. So think
we have the authority to do that?
That's a question for a couple of town authorities. I mean, we would need to have money to back up the offer. It's difficult, but I don't think we're talking about a lot of money.
Well, the assumption before April, and speaking with you and a few others, was $1,000 an acre.
Yeah, but it depends on how badly you want it. That obviously wasn't exciting enough for the sellers.
Maybe it wasn't exciting enough, but maybe it was that they were overwhelmed by things in their lives.
True. Yeah.
So I think I have to go back to Ed, and I also think I could put it on the CPC agenda.
Right.
Shall we discuss this a little more? Anybody else have comments on that?
Well, if we put it on the agenda, do we need to fill out that form for a CPC project?
Yes.
Yes, which I could do.
So Marla, is that 70,000 in fine money? Is that for anything the Conservation Commission deems appropriate? Or is it?
No,
for-
it's as it relates to keeping the Manhan clean.
Okay.
And buying property on Pomeroy Mountain would not, definitely not come under that.
All right.
So I think the only source of money in our town is the CPC money, the open space designated money, or the undesignated, which I have some numbers, but they're old. They go back to January, and it looked like there were about 55,000 in open space designated monies at the time.
And you would have to have it appraised, I'm sure. And can you appraise someone's property
Without their
without
permission.
going on it, without their permission?
What's your
Well,
opinion?
The offer would be contingent upon appraisal and funding and all the things that you need to make an offer contingent upon. But putting something in writing to the seller, at least it solidifies the desirability of the town to buy the property.
Do you have a form that you use when people make a written offer?
Yes.
Like a boilerplate kind of form?
Yeah, that's Massachusetts Association of Realtors form. Yes. Yep. Yep.
Do I hear any more discussion about this?
I think it's a good idea.
Marla, just going to ask you to speak up one more time. Do you really, really want this property? I think I know the answer.
I personally believe it is of value because it's abutting, adding 40 acres to 50, as well as it would make parking and other access to the property we have. There's no parking for the parcel we have now. This lot that you're speaking of has a logging landing, which would function immediately as a parking lot.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to call Ed tomorrow and talk with him a little bit about this. Do we all agree that that should be done like ASAP if we're
Yeah,
going to?
but tomorrow's Friday.
Oh,
Yeah. You won't be
or
in
next
tomorrow.
week.
Yeah.
Or next week. Chris?
Just a question. If you would like the grants committee to be on the lookout for potential grants, we'll do that. The only one that immediately comes to mind is one you're familiar with is the land grant. And that doesn't open until March. It's from a March to July timeframe to apply. So it's not immediate, but there may be some other possibilities that we.
There is the fieldponds.org.
Yep. So there's a couple things that might, we might have to go at the same time to acquire something via grant money.
Okay.
Right.
So we can add it to our list too, to look at some ideas.
And a purchase like this has to go before the town. So if we're doing a special town meeting in the late fall, it wouldn't be a bad thing to kind of get ourselves organized if we could get a deal together. And Mark Walmsley may have some ideas about prices too, because he does this everywhere. So,
Okay.
Yeah. But you wouldn't have the money for it by the special town meeting April. So I mean, I think this would be much more like a regular town meeting in May.
no, I'm just talking about are the residents of Southampton willing to put the money up to buy it?
I
Yeah.
see. Well,
You mean the CPC money? That's what you mean?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Does anybody know, either Chris or Joy, do you know the date of the special town meeting? Has that been set yet? No.
No.
Okay. All right. So I will, if Ed's not available tomorrow, I'll talk with him. I'll email him and set up a time to talk with him about this. Again, he is aware of it. We've talked about it before, more than once. And then I'll proceed on this. Okay. Good. Now, there's one other property to mention, and that's a lot. I think it's like 10 acres, and it's owned by a family called Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, and it's right on East Street behind, they have another lot that's right on the East Street, it has frontage on East Street. And they have called us and asked me to be in touch with a lot of different people, including Parks, including town administrator, including the newly revived Safety Complex Committee. And we talked about this last month in the Open Space Committee meeting. And I don't know if Parks has talked about this. I think they'd like this land, but I don't know if there's any of it. So I don't have a report from Parks on this. But I'm a little concerned that we don't want to just leave them hanging. I want to, maintain a contact with them. Are you saying something, April?
On the assessor's map, it's 5.52, I think, acres.
Oh, right. I apologize. It's much too large. Yeah,
Right.
I said 5.52. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a fair amount of wetlands there, as far as I know.
Yeah, I spoke with him and he said that the whole parcel is being offered at $350,000. He wants to sell the whole 5.52 acres.
Was that a recent conversation, April?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. Because he wouldn't give me a number at all. I asked him.
I called as a private citizen.
Okay, well, that is a lot of money for 5.52 acres.
What's the address on East Street?
I'm
I
sorry.
don't know the address on East Street. I don't know it.
It's part of the Victorian with the front porch and the red barn that recently sold. It got broken off. So it runs down and abuts Conan Park where the pickleball courts are
Pretty
being.
close to the library.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Okay, so, that's interesting. All right. So let's see, again, as far as lands, I know Mark is going to be able to tell us about another very big property where they went directly to Kestrel, but I'm going to leave that for him to tell you. I did ask for a representative of Friends of Southampton Open Space to come tonight, and I kind of asked them rather late, and I only got one person responding that they couldn't make it. But I'm hoping to connect with them and figure out how we can facilitate activities around trail maintenance. I know it's a very big issue, and I'm really going to just jump in and try to coordinate some of that as just a member of FOSOS, not a board member, just a member. And the other thing to report is that we have a volunteer. She couldn't make it to tonight's meeting either. Her name is Mara, M-A-R-A, Lamb, L-A-M-B, and she is going to assist on a couple of different projects. One is hopefully to facilitate kind of getting citizens at large to talk about how to put pollinator plants in their garden. She herself is a gardener, and she's really learned a lot about pollinators and is eager to get more people to do this. And so we're going to try to see if we can coordinate some kind of a garden club. And she's very excited about this. And she is in a position to be able to be a coordinator person about this. So that's brand new. That just came this week. She's doing this work sort of through her volunteer working with Council on Aging, and also maybe helping us with coordinating some trail maintenance kind of groups, committees, etc. Don't get too excited yet, Marla, because I don't have anything to say more about that, but I know it's a big need, and I feel like it's a very fragmented situation right now, and so I'm looking to help get it a little coordinated, and we'll go from there. I see we have a new person that just joined us as perfectly timed. Hi, Mark. Mark Walmsley's with us now. Mark?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Mark.
Mark, I'm going to quickly introduce everyone because it's really a small meeting right now. We have Charlie McDonald, who is an at-large member of Open Space Committee. We have Diana Fetterman, who's here representing Conservation Commission. We have April West, who's from Assessors. Janet Brown, who's from Community Preservation. Joy Piper is our representative from Select Board. And then we have two members of the public, Marla Hank she is on Concom, of course, but she's here as a member of the public. And Chris Fowles is here as a member of the public, but she's also Select Board Chair right now. I have a feeling you know everybody.
Just
Am I
about.
right, Mark? Just about?
Just about.
Yeah. So Mark, two of our members have to leave at 15:15. So you have the floor. I already told him a little bit about our meeting with Sherry York Whiteley. And I also said that you had some information about a property over on the north part of the Manhan that you might want to be able to tell us about.
Thank you. Thank you. So is that pretty much what you want me to cover today? Cindy,
more than that, I wanted you to be able to say anything about where, sort of thoughts that you and I have thrown around in a general sense, and also the executive director of Kestrel showing an interest in Southampton. So.
Sure. Well, thank you for inviting me, everybody. It's great to be here tonight. As Cindy was saying, we've kind of, hopefully we're the latter stages of the pandemic, we're starting to re-engage with the world again a little bit more actively after being set back a little bit. But we've obviously been, very impressed with the work the Open Space Committee and the Concom has been doing around conservation work in Southampton. We know we participated in projects in the past, but things have really moved forward, in a really encouraging way. So we would like to re-engage and kind of see where we can kind of take all the work that's been done and kind of partner with the town and see what future projects we could put together, again, in partnership. So, it sounds like through all the outreach work that's been done, there's a number of landowners, who have contacted the town. I think the most difficult thing from what Cindy and I were talking about is kind of prioritization at this point. We can't necessarily, kind of conserve all of them, at least not in one fell swoop. But, starting to kind of put our heads together and look at the properties, that have come up, the landowners who have expressed interest in conservation, and then matching them with opportunities, particularly funding sources, and thinking a little about timing, and really thinking, what could we put together both for this year and in the coming years to kind of move things forward to meet both the town's goals and the landowners' goals, and hopefully some of Kestrel's interests as well. So, so that's really kind of what we've spoken about, in the most general sense. Would be happy to kind of start meeting again soon and really looking at some maps. I think that's really the next kind of on the ground step. Also, as Cindy mentioned, yes, we are. One of the things that we are considering doing is usually every year we apply to one. We could possibly apply for two, although luckily there's partners involved. Landscape Partnership Grants, which is a state grant for landscape scale conservation. By landscape scale, they mean big landscapes. You need a minimum of 500 contiguous acres for a project. You can go well above that, and you can actually connect the properties you're conserving through already conserved properties. So there's it's really it's kind of a puzzle exercise with a map. There's two other areas we are looking at, but given everything that's been going on in Southampton, given the nature of the properties that have come up, I think it's worthwhile to consider a landscape partnership grant for the Southampton area, possibly extending into other towns as well, which is no problem. And again, you need a 500-acre core, but once you reach that, you can include other properties that aren't necessarily contiguous, as long as they kind of make some sort of conceptual sense that they're in the same type of area. But so as one of those, Cindy mentioned that our executive director, Kristen DeBoer, she lives in Pelham. She knows the east side of the river more. So she has expressed interest in kind of just learning more and really getting familiar with the landscape around here. So we were going to talk about putting together some sort of driving tour for her, kind of with some highlights of the different, features, natural resources that are here. We could look at, individual properties, if it was appropriate, with the landowner, just to kind of take a, quick introduction. So that's something that we have coming up on the agenda as well. And then lastly, Cindy mentioned a property that came up very recently, which I am hopeful that it will move forward in Southampton. It was a property, I believe it is 215 Pomeroy Meadow Road. I'm not sure the number, but I'm pretty sure it is 215. It's owned by the Courtney family. An 85-acre property with a good stretch, almost a mile of frontage on the north branch of the Manhan. Interestingly, we had been working on the property across the river in Easthampton for several years. We hadn't been able to kind of come to terms there, but I met with John Courtney, who has since passed, back in 2017 and toured the property and hadn't really heard back from the family. But I was just reaching out by his widow and his brother, Dennis, and said the family would really not want to develop the property. It's a mix of farmland, woodland, and wetland, like I said, with a good amount of frontage on the wetland or on the Manhan. It maps very well for natural heritage endangered species. My guess is it's for wood turtle, because that's the predominant endangered species on the other side, the property on the other side of the river. So we're exploring their options with them. We are putting some money down for a restricted appraisal just to kind of see what the value of an easement might be. They're kind of open to the future. I don't think they necessarily want to own it in the future, but they at the very least want to see it protected. So there are some possibilities there. We are looking particularly into one NRCS program right now, NRCS being the Natural Resource Conservation Service, federal agency. They have something called the RCPP program, which we are partnering in, we being Kestrel, and we have kind of a pot of money set aside to do projects through that program in the Pioneer Valley. We're working on one farm in Northampton. The neat thing about the program is it has some flexibility. You can do farmland and wetland protection and forest protection without necessarily all the strictures that come from the APR program. So you can hopefully get an entire property like this under it. They are kind of open as to the funding. We won't get too much into the details, but there probably would be some local match required. I'm not really sure how much. My guess is it wouldn't be more than 10% of the easement value. It might not even be that. We're just not sure. There's always a lot of big question marks when it comes to working with federal programs, which you really got to try and pin people down as to what the specifics are. And a lot of them don't know. But so we're just starting down that process. It's a great property, again, right along the Manhan. This connects, up to the Glendale Road area, kind of up into the kind of the winery area and the horse farm up there. It's all part of that same landscape that goes from the Manhan out to Pomeroy Mountains. So it makes a lot of sense, especially when you have a willing landowner and they seem fairly open about, funding required. Again, they do seem to want to put conservation first here, and are just really looking to see what's possible in terms of funding. It seems like a good opportunity. So that's pretty much it. Cindy, anything else would you like to
Well, I just want to mention, mostly for the minutes, that Courtney property is map 8, lot 1, and it's listed as 117.24 acres. At least
that's curious. Yes, I've heard that there might be a discrepancy, an assessor's map discrepancy.
No surprise.
Who knows where it will ultimately. It's fairly large, though, on both ends of the spectrum. So.
Okay, so it's in that general area and maybe more or less of that amount of acreage. It's interesting because, Diana and I walked down in the back there, last summer or summer before. Remember, we walked in there. There's a lot of horse trails in the back, and there's other trails back there with we didn't necessarily get all the way down to the Courtney property, but, back there, like you said, on the opposite side from the winery. So it's really nice down there. So that's very exciting. To work with Kestrel is, to me, one of the most exciting things, because you are the experts and we're not. We're just volunteers. And as far as the match goes, the other thing to say, Mark, we were just talking about the upcoming CPC meeting this is not the town meeting, this is just the committee. And if you think we should at least mention it at the meeting, I know our chairperson, Virginia Ahart, really likes some heads up when she knows about something that might be coming. Our special town meeting might be, no date yet is set, but it might be towards the end of this year. I don't think you're going to have numbers by then, though, are you? Do you think?
By the end of the year, we might have numbers. I don't think, my guess is if the project goes forward and it goes forward under the program that we are thinking it may, it probably wouldn't close until 2023 anyway.
Okay.
But to know that it's on the horizon, I think that's absolutely fine. Again, just whether we get to specific numbers or not, or just let people know that, so it doesn't surprise anyone and people kind of keep a little slot for it, knowing
So
that. Yeah.
Is it okay for Janet, who's on that committee, and me to just bring up this, the potential for needing some money from the town?
I did ask the landowners, and I mentioned that I was going to be speaking with people with the town, and they said that was fine.
Okay, super, great. So we don't know the numbers and we don't know the percentage. We just know it's coming. So that's good. Okay, great. Does anybody have any other specific questions for Mark? Okay. Boy, that was quick, Mark. Thank you. You're welcome to stay. We've already done committee reports and everything, and I know Diana and April may have to go along, but the next thing on the agenda is Pollinator Garden, which
I do have an interest in that, but I do have to run for family, but I'm sure we'll be talking more in the coming months.
Thanks for joining us, Mark. Thanks so much, and I'll be in touch, okay?
Thanks for inviting me, and it's great to see everyone.
And I'll see you Sunday. I'm going to be at the open house.
Excellent. See you there.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Wow, that's good. Kestrel's got a new office. It's on Bay Road in Amherst. I think it's Amherst or Hadley. But anyway, I'm going to their open house this coming Sunday afternoon, which I understand is a very beautiful spot up there, kind of up on the mountain. So that's good. Charlie, do you want to talk about what you got there with the Pollinator Garden?
Okay, I sent a few emails this past weekend with a design that has been modified over the last 3 or 4 months, primarily by interacting with Randall and minimizing the maintenance of the garden. Again, this garden is very small. It's only 10 square feet or 100 square feet, 10 feet by 10 feet. And the design was modified to include paver bricks. And that was suggested as being ideal by Randall because of the minimal maintenance of it and the ability to do any trimming and so on. Now, we in the past have presented this design in front of both Randall as well as the water department. It was in its early form where we had a walkway that was mostly gravel. Now it has got that paver brick, which, by the way, makes it more expensive because of the nature of the cutting and the labor involved in putting pavers down. But we reviewed the general idea in front of the water department, and they seemed to be they were fine with the concept. And Randall, I think, is also reasonably comfortable with the idea. Now, I understand from your email, the location on Conway Meadow has been a cause of concern on some people's part.
It's me too, that it is over the aquifer, and that land was, conserved with the idea of avoiding development on that and having any impervious surfaces. So that was my question to you. Did we even talk about the pavers when we went before the water commissioners? And I don't think we did. We just talked about the concept of putting a garden in there
No,
at the
we
time.
didn't mention that. That's a relatively new
That's
concept.
relatively new. And was with you when we went to meet Randall. Randall's concern is that he doesn't have any extra time or resources to do a lot of fancy trimming. So he thought pavers would be the answer. To me, we got to make a decision here about whether we go back to the commissioners and make sure they're okay with impervious pavers, even though, it's not the entire garden. Anybody else want to comment about this? Because it's located on that property on Palmer Meadow Road, which is, and we don't have a particular location on it. I know Chris and I talked a couple years ago, seems like forever, about putting it sort of on the side. So we have to, the grant was acquired with the idea of protecting the water, the aquifer, right? Yeah. So.
Well, it's only that the paver walkway is only about 325 square feet. So it's relatively small compared to the overall spatial dimensions of the property, which I think is 15 acres. So the impact directly on permeability or lack of permeability will be microscopic. So, but I guess the idea of reviewing this in detail with the committee, and because we did this before, and I think we had some idea that either at the school or down at the town hall or the Pomeroy Meadow property were under consideration, and no one else seemed to come up with any ideas of other locations. And the best selection out of that meeting was Pomeroy Meadow. Mm-hmm. So we can do that again if you would like. And of course, it will take some time for this project to be implemented. I mean, I would think it's sometime next year at best.
I agree.
And, just ordering benches will take at least a year. So these are things we have to consider. We can review it in detail with the committee again, and it's good. I copied, the select board as well as Mahler and all the state of the art, as it were, so that everybody be up to speed and they can put in their comments if they have great concern.
Okay, well, this is the time for our committee or anybody else that's present to give their thoughts, their ideas. I know a lot of work's been gone into this so far. It's not final.
I like the idea of it on Pomeroy Meadow. I think it's really visible there, and it could really lend itself to a resting spot and all. I just remember advocating for that, preserving that and making the point that we didn't want to build on it because we needed every bit of, unpaved space over the aquifer. So I'm just afraid that some people might come back to us and say, hey, you said that we couldn't develop it because of that, and now you've paved it, or even though it would be a very small part. But I wonder, is there some other surface that would be, just as accessible but more permeable?
Mm-hmm. I don't know of any. But I can talk. I know people who are fairly expert in pavers. And if there's some methodology where they can have spaces in it that would prevent it being 100% impermeable, that might be a route. But the gravel, gray stone, these things are, if you see I remember Ed Colley put gray stone in the parking lot of Wolf Hill. And if a few years later, you look at the parking lot and I think it perhaps is the same now, has a considerable amount of weeds in it. Mm-hmm. And these things, as Randall has frequently pointed out, he has a mission and it keeps creeping up. The other,
I don't know what it was, but I was at some MVP session where they talked about different towns doing that, putting in parking lots that are themselves permeable. There's some kind of materials out there that, make a town, because of climate resiliency and things like that, that are kind of changing the whole scene. Do you remember anything about that, Chris?
No, I wasn't in on those meetings for the MVP actually, but I just want to say I've got to run too. I was curious to hear more about the Pollinator Garden, but I'll catch up with that, and only because we signed the Pollinator Pledge for Southampton, so I was going to need to be doing an update progress report. So I was kind of hearing, I didn't know that this has gone in this direction, so this is news to me. So I'll catch up with the details later on.
I'll
Do you have
send you
any
some.
comments?
I'll forward
Chris?
some emails to you.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, take care.
Thank you, Chris. Thank
Bye.
you.
I
Bye.
think Smith College has a parking lot that they installed that has a permeable surface. That was part of it. And I know I've seen other places that there's open spaces between the pavers. I don't know, though, if periodically you'd have to go after it with a weed whacker or something. So if you were looking for absolutely no maintenance, that doesn't do it. But
Yeah.
I know there are places doing more permeable surfaces.
Well, that's good to know. I'll have to figure out and get some more information on that. The other thing is we learned, Cindy and I learned with Randall, is that they recharge the water department for any time they spend on maintenance of that site. So it isn't quite as rigid in terms of his budget.
Yeah, that's good. I gotta go. Sorry.
No problem.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Diana. Thanks for coming. So, Charlie, I think these points, to me anyway, seem extremely important to address. So if you're able to do any additional research, I realize you have gone above and beyond in the amount of time you put into already, but thank you for doing that, because we really want to get it right.
Okay, I'll do that. No problem. I think I have some contacts that will give us some heads up as to what options we have, and I'll forward the emails I sent last weekend to Chris, so she's up to speed at least to the state of the art as we understand it. And okay, good. We'll try and do that. And okay, as far as you mentioned in the email this afternoon, I'm gonna get my booster shot for my COVID tomorrow around 1:45, and I can drop a box either at your garage or your front door that will cover some of the information that you requested.
Okay, it's really just those extra, whatever you took when you were at Celebrate Southampton, the pre-printed ones. Oh, thank you so much. All right, I may be around, so thank you. Good luck with your booster shot. That's great.
All right.
Yeah, good. Okay, so I think, Eva, is there any major agenda items that I've missed that anybody wants to pick up? Hi, Dan.
Hello.
I'm going to ask you to speak in a second, Dan, but just there is one thing to tell everybody on the in the Open Space Committee here. The Select Board has requested periodic, I think it's quarterly updates from boards and committees, and they've sort of grouped them by interest and whatever, or by mission. So the Open Space Committee is scheduled to speak to the Select Board at the first meeting in October. So I'm happy to be the one. So I just want you to know, I think I'm on the agenda for, or we're on the agenda for this coming Select Board meeting, which, am I right, Joy? Would it be next Tuesday? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
The
So
12th. I think it's, what is it? Next Tuesday? No, it's the 12th.
Oh, it's the 12th. Okay, that's good news.
Yes.
That's good.
That's
But
good news, yeah. Yes, we have an executive session on the 5th. So it's open session on the 12th.
Thank you very much. Great. So I will do that. It will be a sort of brief report. And that's the only business I have. But now we have Dan with us. And Dan, there were two things related to parks that we just wanted to find out. I think we got a little bit of an update of the fact that the Parks Commission was awarded the $100,000 grant to do some work over at the Conant Park, and Chris Falls
Yes.
kind of gave us an update on that.
Mhm.
And the other was whether or not, and you texted me that you looked in the minutes, that whether or not anything was discussed regarding the property, the rights property. And as far as you know, that wasn't discussed at the parks.
There was nothing formally discussed. We had made contact with them as they had reached out to us. They're currently, it's not currently in our plan that land would be a parcel that we would go after. I think it fits in more with what we need to do for this parks grant we're getting, because part of the parks grant is coming up with a master plan for Conant Park. So in making the master plan, perhaps I have a feeling we'll look at this and just knowing how much sports have grown in town and the need for sports fields. I mean, I'm not saying that particular parcel is ideal for sports, but I think there will be a need for more land for soccer fields, most likely. But that'll come out of the master plan. So
Really? Isn't Labrie Field big?
it's not big enough. They can't accommodate all the sports that are happening in town on the weekends at this time. So, yeah.
Amazing.
I will say that April had to leave, but she found out from the rights that they're looking for $350,000. So that's an interesting number to be considered for whether or not it could be acquired for, if that's, I don't know if it's been appraised. I didn't ask her that.
Mhm.
That's what the owners are saying. And of course, the town only pays the appraised amount.
Of course.
Yeah, so.
Yep. Yeah, no, I would say if there was any pursuit of that land, it would be in a combination with a grant through the state or the federal government.
Right, okay.
We obviously wouldn't be buying it outright.
Okay.
No matter at what cost. I think that we would be looking to use grant monies for that purpose.
Okay. All right, Dan, thanks for joining us. I think we were just about to wrap up. However, is there any other business that anybody can think of that really cannot wait till a future meeting? Okay, not. So we got a schedule for the next meeting. We've been meeting on Thursday nights. So we've been meeting monthly. Is the 21st a good night for everybody? The 21st of October? Everybody present? Okay.
That's fine.
It's fine.
Okay, great. So I'm going to suggest that we go ahead and schedule for October 21st, which is a Thursday at 6 p.m. Right now, location, let's just wait on that. Maybe it'll be another Zoom meeting. That sometimes is very convenient for people. And others are making very good decisions about avoiding any kind of public places for obvious reasons of exposure. And I'm 100% supportive of that. So right now it's 6 p.m. at place to be determined. Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
great. We're adjourned. Thanks for all your attention, everybody. Boy, 7 o'clock, perfect hour of meeting.
Thank you,
Good night,
Cindy.
everyone.
You
Thanks
run
for
a
being
tight ship. Good job.
That's me, tight shift. Tight ship. Bye-bye.
Bye.